The five-star restaurant buzzed with quiet conversation as Alexandra Hayes moved between tables with practiced grace. At 28, she'd been waiting tables at Marcello's for 3 years, enduring entitled customers while putting herself through law school at night. She was 1 semester away from never having to carry a wine bottle again, but tonight, she was about to reach her breaking point. At table 7 sat Richard Thornton, a billionaire investor known for his sharp deals and sharper temper. He was maybe 55, with silver hair and an expensive gray suit. "This is the 2015?" Richard asked, his voice cutting. "Yes, sir," Alexandra replied. "The Bordeaux you requested." Richard took a sip, then his face hardened. "This is completely wrong. I ordered the 2016. Are you incompetent?" Alexandra felt her smile tighten. She double-checked the order. "Sir, I have your order slip here. It clearly states the 2015. I don't care what your slip says," Richard snapped, his voice rising. "I know what I ordered. You wrote it down wrong. This is exactly why people like you will never amount to anything." The nearby tables had gone quiet. Alexandra felt her face flush, but she kept her composure. "I apologize for the confusion, sir," she said evenly. "I'll bring you the 2016 immediately." "No, what you'll do is admit you made a mistake," Richard continued condescendingly. "Say it. Say you wrote down the wrong year." Alexandra looked at this billionaire who thought his money gave him the right to humiliate service workers, and something inside her snapped. She set down the wine bottle carefully, looked him in the eye, and said in a clear, steady voice, "Shout at me again, and this ends." The restaurant went silent. Richard stared in shock. "Excuse me?" he said. "You heard me," Alexandra replied calmly. "Shout at me again, insult me again, and I'm done. I'll get your wine. I'll finish service professionally, but you will speak to me with basic human respect. I am not your employee to belittle. I am a person doing my job, and I deserve dignity." Richard's face reddened. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "Yes," Alexandra said. "You're Richard Thornton, billionaire investor. I read about you in my corporate law class. You're also currently creating a scene." "Corporate law?" Richard repeated, surprise. "I'm a third-year law student at Columbia," Alexandra said. "I work here to pay tuition. And Mr. Thornton, your net worth does not entitle you to abuse service workers. Now, would you like the 2016? Or should I get my manager?" Richard sat back, studying her. The anger drained from his face. "What kind of law are you studying?" "Corporate and contract law," Alexandra replied, "specializing in mergers and acquisitions." "And you work here?" Richard asked. "Yes, because law school costs $100,000. So I work 50 hours a week while studying full-time, which means I'm functioning on 4 hours of sleep, and I don't have patience for being shouted at over wine." Richard was quiet. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He stood and extended his hand. "You're absolutely right," he said. "I was out of line. I apologize." Alexandra stared at his hand, then shook it cautiously. "Thank you. Sit down," Richard said, gesturing to the empty chair. "Just for a moment." Alexandra glanced at her manager, who nodded, confused. She sat carefully. 25 years ago. I was where you are," Richard said, "working 3 jobs through business school, a waiter at a diner, and one night, a customer treated me exactly how I just treated you. Made me feel worthless." He paused. "I swore if I became successful, I never treat service workers that way. I'd remember what it felt like. Tonight, I forgot that promise. I became the person I swore I'd never be." Alexandra felt her anger softening. "You stood up for yourself," Richard continued. "You could have just taken the abuse. Instead, you demanded respect, even knowing it might cost your job. Do you know how rare that is?" "I'm just tired of being treated like I'm less than human," Alexandra said. "What you are is exactly what my firm needs," Richard said. "Someone who stands up to power, who refuses to be intimidated." "Alexandra, I'd like to offer you a position. Summer associate at Thornton Investments. You'd work in our legal department, get real experience, and the pay is enough that you could quit this job." Alexandra blinked. "You want to hire me because I told you off?" I want to hire you because you showed more backbone in 30 seconds than most of my employees show in a year, Richard replied. Because you're at Columbia Law, and because I need people who challenge, not yes men. He pulled out a card. Think about it. Call me tomorrow. The offer is genuine, not cherry. Over the following weeks, Alexandra researched Thornton Investments thoroughly. Finally, she called. I'll accept, she told Richard, but on one condition. What's that? You fund a scholarship for service workers going to college. Because I'm not the only waitress putting herself through school. Richard laughed. You're negotiating before you've even started? Yes, Alexandra said. Because if you really meant what you said, prove it. Help others like us. Deal, Richard said. The Thornton Service Workers Scholarship. $100,000 a year for 10 students. Alexandra thrived at Thornton Investments. She was sharp, fearless, unafraid to challenge Richard. She became his most trusted advisor, and over time, something more. 2 years after that night, Richard and Alexandra stood at the first scholarship ceremony. You changed me, Richard said quietly. That night, you reminded me who I was supposed to be, and you gave me a chance when you could have fired me, Alexandra replied. I love you, Richard said suddenly. I know the age difference is significant. I know I'm your employer. But Alexandra, you're the bravest person I've ever met. I've been in love with you since you stood up and apologized, Alexandra said. That took more courage than most billionaires have. So what do we do? Richard asked. We do it right, Alexandra said. I finish my program, find my own position at another firm, establish my career independently. Then we date properly. Exactly what I'd expect from you, Richard said. 1 year later, Alexandra graduated and joined a competing firm. On her first day, Richard appeared with flowers. Now that you're independent and no longer my employee, Richard said, may I take you to dinner? On one condition, Alexandra smiled. I choose the restaurant, and you promise to be nice to the waitstaff. Deal, Richard laughed. 5 years after Alexandra had stood up to a billionaire over wine, they married. Not as boss and employee, but as equals who'd learned that real respect isn't about power, it's about recognizing humanity in everyone. At their wedding, Alexandra gave a toast. 5 years ago, Richard shouted at me over wine, and I told him to stop. That moment could have ended my career. Instead, it started a partnership built on mutual respect and the courage to challenge each other to be better. If this story reminded you that standing up for yourself with dignity can change everything, please give it a like and share it. Subscribe for more heartwarming stories. Leave a comment about demanding respect.